Hi, everyone, and welcome to Open Class number 5.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
How are you today, Michael?
Good. Doing great. Thanks.
Excellent. Very well. Well, I think, let's share a little bit about the kind of behind the scenes stuff. So I've recorded 3 videos and you recorded 2. They're in processing. I got the first one back and we have like 1 each more to record. And then we'll have our kind of basic course ready, right?
Yep. Getting really close.
Really excited about it. So I'm hopeful that sometime our editor, by the way, he said that he was kind of busy. Like it might take mid-September. He thinks he may be done. So I guess we'll launch this maybe like late September or maybe early October. But it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Perfect.
Let's answer some questions. I'm gonna share this screen with you and everybody else. We have, I think, 5 questions here. First one is from Oscar. This is the longest email today, so let's go over it. Came in a couple days ago. Good afternoon. I contracted COVID in March and recovered from it after having 12 days with fever. I was feeling better, and then a couple of weeks later, I went to get tested for COVID because at the beginning of the pandemic, they were only testing the elderly and those who were symptomatic. Unsurprisingly, the nasal swab came back positive and I freaked out. I had seen so many bad things in the media about the virus that I thought I was going to be hospitalized or die. I also didn't know for sure if my positive results was from when I was sick in March or if I'd recently contracted the virus again. In addition, I had to stay in my room in order to not pass the virus to my mom, who's elderly. All that messed me up and I developed a lot of anxiety and insomnia. I couldn't sleep at night thinking something bad was going to happen in my sleep. My heart and my thoughts were racing. Went to see a psychiatrist who prescribed antidepressants, and I could only take them for a week because I read the side effects and got scared of them. I took Ativan also for a month, and when I learned about the dangers of benzos, I tapered off immediately. The severe insomnia destroyed me mentally, and I even contemplated, something very serious there. Fortunately, my sleep got a little better after discovering magnesium glycinate. I was now able to sleep 4 or 5 hours, but occasionally I had nights where I slept 1 or 2 hours. Last week, I even stopped magnesium, and I've been seeing my sleep improve. I sleep now 7 hours, but never right through. I wake up 2 to 3 times and take 30 minutes or more to fall back asleep. Last night, I had a horrible night of sleep, only slept 1 hour after having 5 nights streak of decent sleep. How can I avoid these setbacks? It only takes 1 night of bad sleep to get me discouraged and distressed. I start to think, is this the beginning of something serious, like SFI, a tumor, something like that? It only takes 1 negative thought I read on Reddit regarding sleep, or the virus, or 1 minor ailment like a headache or GERD for my mind to lose focus and prevent me from going to sleep. I'm now worried about tonight's sleep, even though I was doing okay and making progress before last night's hiccup. In addition, I have mild sleep apnea. I had that for some time, and it never prevented me from sleep until like anxiety due to COVID. Tried trazodone, mirtazapine, hydroxyzine, but they only worked for a while. Now, all I'm taking is magnesium sometimes, and for the most part, it's working. But when it doesn't, I get so discouraged and anxious. So frustrating to start winding down around 10 o'clock, preparing for sleep and doing all these things to ensure that I get some sleep. When before, no matter if I got home from work at midnight, I knew I was going to go to sleep no matter what. And if I don't get good sleep at night, I have to wait till the next night to try to sleep again, since trying to sleep during the day may kill my sleep drive. Being unemployed due to COVID and spending all day at home doing nothing doesn't help either. Thank you for your time. So I think if we try to summarize here, we have the onset, which clearly was anxiety and COVID related. Mm-hmm. And then we had the kind of like the period with the medications. And then we have the kind of finding magnesium, which works sometimes doesn't, the on and off, the now in kind of this really bumpy state, the frustration with having to do so much to get to sleep, etc. Those were the things I kind of identified as big ones to talk about. But I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts, Mike, on this one?
Yeah, I agree. It's the precipitating event, obviously, anxiety from COVID, and then this kind of the psychosomatic kind of worry and physiological response to the worry. Really common to hear with people with the classic insomnia kind of pattern that we read about here. I picked up on a couple things too. Magnesium working, quote unquote working. Magnesium tends to kind of relax you a little bit, but like everything else, it doesn't put you to sleep. So it's just to get relaxed. So if it helps to get relaxed, that's great. then it's working. But for sleep, I picked up on occasional late work, a couple times getting home at midnight or something. I don't know what the normal sleep work schedule is for this person, but I'm assuming
I think currently, Oscar, he's not working, but that was happening in the past, I think.
Okay, gotcha. And then, of course, as a sleep tech, I picked up on the mild sleep apnea comment, just to make sure that that's not muddying the waters with your, with the insomnia stuff. So, I think, the occasional bad night. It's such a common story to hear. They're worried about the occasional bad night. Will it set off a series of bad nights? And it can, if you shift all of your attention and focus to your sleep, then it will. So the answer is somehow, some way, not focusing on sleep. If you have a poor night, assume that's completely normal to have that. That is not abnormal in any way. So one bad night, you want to go through your day like you already kind of forgot how the night went. You don't even really remember if it was a good or bad night. I like to get clients to that point where they can barely remember how the previous night went. I don't know, maybe they're awake a little bit. They don't really remember that much. That's great. That's actually a great sign. So, not focusing on sleep is such a common theme. You really need to work on that, really. Your brain does produce sleep, clearly. Unmedicated sleep, it produces it. And so, understand that a little poor night of sleep once in a while is not harmful in any way physically. You don't want to overreact to it. You don't want to, become, sedentary the next day. You don't want to, we kind of bash on sleep hygiene a lot, but if you have a poor night, don't destroy your sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is your preventative side of things. So, go about a good, healthy day, just like you hopefully are normally doing. So you don't let the other stuff kind of creep in and make your sleep more difficult. So that's kind of what I heard. I heard the efforts come in, and the medication, trying different medications, and worry about the one occasional night to just trigger a series of poor nights. Physiologically it won't. There's nothing there. In fact, kind of logically the opposite should happen. You should be sleepier that night. But, we have the gas brake that we've talked about, and you want to make sure, that the brake isn't getting strong after a poor night of sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I comment on this, just want to say that Melena's here saying hi.
Hi, Melena.
On a road trip, but not with us. And Isaiah's here too. Thanks for being here.
Hey there.
So yeah, to Oscar, I want to say this is one of those emails where I could literally spend an hour picking up on so many important things in Oscar's email. But okay, firstly, I want to say with COVID, there's like you have everything, all the recipe, like the full recipe for insomnia, which is there's something you're worried about. You have more time on your hands and you have more bandwidth. So you have the spark, which is the anxiety, and then you have more time to think about your sleep, worry about it, like read up on it, Google it, figure things out. And that just you have the spark, which is anxiety, and the other things kind of fuel that flame. And now you have like real insomnia going on, right? And then you're grasping at straws. You try antidepressants, didn't really work. You get off them. You try the benzos, no, it didn't work. Don't want to take that. You try this. And at some point, for some reason, you feel like magnesium, I believe in this one. You have faith in it. You take it. You feel maybe feel relaxed, but more so, I think you believe in it. You think this will help you. You take it and, oh yeah, that's it. You slept well. You take it again. You're like, it's working. Magnesium is working. But you don't really understand why. You're a little bit, skeptical still. And then there comes that night where you take the magnesium and you still don't sleep, and like, dang it stopped working. In reality, in my opinion, the magnesium really had nothing to do with you sleeping better that night or worse. It's really your belief in it that makes it, quote unquote work. And that's where you often have this common story of sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It has nothing to do with the magnesium. It's how much you believe it will work, how sleepy you are, how preoccupied you are, the other things. Yeah. But the tricky thing there is that when you start believing in something from the outside, you stop believing in yourself. That's always the concern. You wanted to jump in there, Mike?
Yeah, no, completely. I totally agree with everything you just said. I did hear Oscar at one point comment. I think he said he he took magnesium, then he stopped, and he kept sleeping well. Well, right there is pretty good proof that the magnesium isn't putting you to sleep. That sleep is happening. You're not making it happen. So again, a lot of things kind of relax people, you know, and people assume like if they get super relaxed, they'll fall asleep. And relaxation is a physical thing. You know, sleep is more of a mental thing. It's more of a lack of effort. We've tried, but it's lack of mental effort. So, you know, just understand that you've stated, Oscar, you stated in your email that you slept without magnesium. So, you know, kind of try to work on that belief system that, you know, you have everything you need to sleep. It's not going to be something you ingest that causes you to sleep.
100%. And so when that's one thing you can, like, just knowing what you talked about, you can internalize confidence. See, like, I can sleep by my own magnesium. Other things don't really have any impact on my ability to sleep. It's number one. And number two here was, this pattern is very common actually when you go 4 nights sleeping pretty good, and then you don't sleep at all, and then you kind of react to that. Then you have another couple nights you don't sleep well, and then you sleep better, and then you go back and forth. You kind of like this bumpy thing going on. And there are lots to talk about there, but I think if I would pick like this one thing, this one insight, this one thing that I think really helps is, you know, being okay with having that bumpy night, saying, okay, I didn't sleep at all last night, and that's okay, you know, or even more actually going towards the next night. You know, you didn't sleep much at all one night, and then, you know, it's the next evening, and then you're like, oh no, it may happen again, and then you go, and it's okay if it happens again. I'm willing to have that again. I'm okay with being awake at night. I can transform wakefulness at night to something positive. When you, I'm going to repeat this one I say sometimes, that when you're willing to experience X, you neutralize the fear of X. So when you just in your mind imagine, I'm okay with having some bumpy nights, you neutralize the fear of it. That's super helpful.
Completely. Like what you said, turning things into a positive is so helpful for a lot of things in life, really. You know, sleep is kind of the ultimate thing that you can't control. So turning things around about your sleep into a positive is great. You know, being awake at night, find something creative to do that you can learn and enjoy, and I'll turn it into a positive. And then the flip side, during the day, if you had a poor night of sleep, remind yourself during the day, oh, I'm going to be extra sleepy tonight. Like the sleep, I'm going to allow that sleep drive to really kick in. I'm going to kind of maybe wind down just a little earlier, and kind of pay attention to how you're feeling in the evening, and expect a little stronger sleepiness, and kind of look forward to it. I'll like relish it. Like if I have a poor night or not, I mean, I generally sleep well, but if I have a short night, like I've talked about the windy nights, you know, that's my bane of existence, the windy night. So a windy night, I'm not sleeping very well. The next night, ideally the wind only was one night, I'm looking forward to going to bed. I'm like really like that afternoon, I'm like doing stuff I like to do, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm going to wind down and I'm going to crash. It's going to be like, you know, really, really out kind of sleep. So I'm just trying to say, turn things into a positive, because there's nothing physically harmful with what's happening with you. So, you know, that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think the last thing here for Oscar I want to say is, what I often hear is the story of, okay, I slept, you know, I generally, just like Michael say, you know, don't try to track how many hours you sleep. That's never helpful. But just for the sake of this example, I'm going to say somebody who says, I used to sleep 6.5 hours, right? And now I do as well, but now I have to do all these things to sleep 6.5 hours. Before I just slept 6.5 hours, but now I have to turn the TV off. I have to have hot milk. I have to take a shower. I have to think this and that. And in reality, what's happening is there's no difference. You would sleep the same regardless, but you just have gotten into habit of think of it as you have to do all these things, which is kind of frustrating. So I think for Oscar, I don't think anything has actually happened. It's just in the past, you didn't think you had to do things to sleep, and that was actually helpful for you. Now you think you have to do all these things to sleep, but in fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's when you don't try, that sleep comes your way.
Yep.
All right. Okay, Oscar, let us know if there's any follow-up questions. Hope that was helpful. And we have a bunch of live questions here, so let's go over this. Melina says, yesterday I was preparing to go on a road trip with my sister when she said, oh my God, it's 2:30. We have to be awake in 7. Guess what happened? LOL. I said, oh crap, I only have a couple hours to sleep. Sleep pressure got the best of me, but I'm okay though. I've learned so much here. I'm so attached to keep learning. Love it. So that's great, Elena.
Good.
100%.
Keep learning. Yeah.
Riley says, recommended the channel directly to a few people on Reddit today. The Insomnia subreddit is a bit of a chaotic cluster, but the more we can point to people to NATO or CBTI, yeah, 100%. Thanks for the support.
Great.
Thanks so much, Riley. Isaiah said, can you go over what questions that you are answering from whoever comment you're going over? Can you go over what questions that you are answering from whoever comments you're going over? I'm not sure I understood the one. Maybe rephrase that question and I'll definitely answer it. And this one, oh, maybe he meant this one. Oh yeah, maybe you meant this. This is from somebody named Oscar. The one we just talked about, Isaiah, is from somebody named Oscar. It's an email that came in. I think that was the question. And then Malena said, when you take supplements and meds like I used to, it only sedates you enough to calm thoughts that keep you up. However, when anxiety is more strong, it overpowers the sedative. That's very true. And I want to, I had a client, BedTyme client actually, who said, jokingly with a smiley the other day, but he said, I like learning here. And you know what? Education is better than sedation.
Hey, I like that. That's a great line. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. Sedation, it get get groggy and all that stuff the next day, and it's not the route to go.
Education is better than sedation. Let's read the next one. So thank you, Oscar. And this is a comment from a recent, I don't know actually which episode, but this is a recent comment from Canal Angler. I guess that's a fisher. Hi, Daniel. Just want to give you an update. The last 2 days, I've fallen asleep without the aid of medication. I was prescribed short-term lorazepam and Ambien, which have since helped me catch up on Z's. Yesterday, I was able to fall asleep for about an hour on the couch unknowingly and then woke up kind of in a panic, but it quickly settled. And then again today, same thing about an hour ago. I wake up kind of panicked and nervous, almost startled, but I feel as though this is progress if I'm able to fall asleep without the aid of medication. They're only short bursts of sleep, but it's better than nothing. Any thoughts? Thank you so much. What do you think, Michael?
Okay, so I'm sorry.
So I think the story is that Canal Angler has been sleeping well for 2 nights without any medications, but then had this fell asleep on the couch, woke up kind of panicked, slept okay, but then that happened again, kind of fell asleep on the couch and then kind of panicked. So is this kind of falling asleep on the couch, is that progress or no?
Is that like pre-bed, like right before bed?
I think so. I don't know exactly when, but it's before bedtime for sure.
Yeah. It's not the end of the world, but a lot of people kind of wake up sort of groggy if it's kind of right at the start of your normal sleep schedule, and you kind of fall asleep. Maybe your body sort of contorted, and maybe not really that comfortable or whatever. You just kind of feel a little disoriented. Especially if you get into a little bit of deep sleep, like right before bed, your brain is kind of ready to go. It's ready to go deep, which it does normally in the beginning of the night. And if that first part is on the couch for a few minutes, you can be pretty disoriented. Maybe not a great feeling. Otherwise, there's nothing harmful about it. I mean, sleep is sleep, wherever, couch, bed, doesn't matter. If your brain's asleep, it's asleep. So I guess is that the question? Is it harmful?
I think it was more, the way I read the question was the fact that I'm now falling asleep kind of in the evening, even if it's unintentional, is that a sign of progress overall?
Yeah. I mean, if previously you were having difficulty falling asleep, then yeah, that would be progress. I would also kind of question about, when you go to bed, Canal Angler, do you have trouble falling asleep in bed? Like you're drowsy, you're drifting off on the couch, and then you go to bed and you stare at the ceiling for a couple hours.
I think that's what happened in the last 2 days, where that Canal Angler fell asleep before going to bed, woke up kind of panicked, but then was doing okay in bed.
Yeah, I guess I would try to catch the sleepiness. I probably would try to avoid it. I mean, it's okay, but I would try to avoid it. Maybe get on your feet a little bit in the evening and just, stand up and stretch just to prevent yourself from falling asleep on the couch. And then when you feel signs of I like to use the phrase struggling to stay awake. When you kind of feel like that a little bit, you're losing focus, you're struggling to stay awake a little bit, you just catch it and then say, okay, that's bedtime right there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. And I want to say, to me, I think, yes, it is definitely progress. I think so. It's I'm sure you heard this one tons of times, Michael, when people say, I can actually take a nap now. I haven't been able to take a nap for a long time, but now I can nap. I think that's definitely a sign that the hyperarousal is lifting and it's kind of allowing you to sleep during the day. I think that's a very positive sign. I agree. I think that this is, I think, an important one. I think what happens often is somebody unintentionally falls asleep in the evening for like 3 minutes, wakes up and is like, no, I destroyed my sleep drive. Now I'm not going to be able to sleep. Dang it.
No.
And then, you think about that the whole night, and then it becomes self-fulfilling. So if you took like a mini nap, it's fine. It's totally fine. Nothing's going to happen. If it's like 35 minutes just before you go to bed, or 45 minutes or an hour, then, maybe not great. But, the reaction to a nap can often be much more problematic than the nap itself,
Right. Exactly.
And then one more thing I want to just comment on. I know this is kind of like hair splitting a little bit, but I can't help myself to say this one. I think it's a really important one. The last 2 days I've fallen asleep without the aid of medications. Yesterday I was able to fall asleep, and I think we had that another time. Whenever I hear that I was able, it immediately triggers my spidey sense of like, okay, this person is still thinking a little bit of sleep as an ability, a skill, an effort, like you have to do something. Mm-hmm. When you think of this way, Canal Angler, like when you think the reason I slept better was actually the complete opposite. I didn't try as much. I let go of effort. That really helps. So nothing can sleep as a skill or ability, or any effort is good.
Yeah, maybe change your phrasing from I was able to fall asleep to sleep happened.
Sleep happened. Yeah.
Sleep happened.
Or I was, or something like I was able to let go. I was able to
let go. I got out of the way and sleep happened.
I got out of the way. That's a good one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I think Melina says, I remember from the book, The Effortless Sleep Method, Sasha mentioned how no sleep is better than a drugged sleep. I agree 100%. Good point there. And Riley says, nighttime awakenings, what amount is considered normal if somebody likely doesn't have sleep apnea? Are they caused by hyperarousal, and will they subside over time? So I think the question is here, if somebody doesn't have, I guess, no sleep apnea, no insomnia, what's normal in terms of awakenings? What do you think?
Well, I'll go back to my sleep tech side here. We've, in all the books, it says 5 times an hour is considered normal, is within normal limits. 5 times in an hour. So if you slept for 6 hours, that's 30 times over the course of a night. That's a lot of awakenings. Now, they're talking about any awakening. It could be like 3-5 seconds. That would be considered a brief awakening. It doesn't have to be like 5 times an hour you wake up for 5 minutes or something like that. So I just like to point out to people that being awake at night is normal. It is absolutely normal to find yourself awake once in a while. And how you react to it is the key. When it comes to insomnia, how you react to being in this normal state of being awake at night it determines everything about an insomnia condition. Having said that, a lot of things can fragment your sleep a little bit. Some medications can, like just being uncomfortable, maybe ate too much or something, or didn't eat enough or whatever. Like anything can cause your brain to kind of react a little bit. You're not going to probably be aware of any of these happening at night, but I've seen it in real time in a lot of sleep studies. So you just want to make sure you're ruling the obvious stuff out. If you twisted your ankle and you're in a lot of pain, yeah, you're going to be awake more at night. It's just probably going to happen. So be aware that a lot of things can make you wake up a little bit at night. How you react is the key.
How you react is the key. And I think that goes to the second part here. So we already said, waking up multiple times completely normal. If you have a longer awakening, if you're kind of struggling to fall back asleep, typically that is hyperarousal, right? The reaction to the waking up. Will that subside over time? Yeah. When you start learning, you're not as worried about, you kind of like pay less attention, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes, you start having less of those longer awakenings, if you will. Riley, hope that helped. And thanks for all the support. And okay, so cool. So let's go over to the next one. This is from Thea, who goes by, I look mad when I'm sleeping. I think it's her handle here on YouTube. Hey, it's Thea again. Are you surprised? ? I'm happy you're back, Thea. It's always nice to read from you. I wanted to talk more in depth about something that is happening to me these days, but honestly, I feel it's kind of complicated. So I beg you to be patient with me, of course. I'm having a lot of troubles falling asleep or going back to sleep because basically I want to control my thoughts. My head hits the pillow and I go, okay, what can I think about to fall asleep and relax? The thing is that I concentrate too much on my thoughts before I sleep. Most insomniacs have something specific going on in their mind they just can't stop ruminating about. But for me, it's just I try to think about things that I hope will make me fall asleep, but I end up being more frustrated and in distress. At some point, I start judging everything that crosses my mind. And if I say, okay, then I'm not going to think about anything, I never succeed. I need to find something to think about. I judge my thoughts. I feel they are just going to keep me more awake. And then obviously if I fall asleep for 2 to 3 hours, then I wake up and it's the same story. I get excited because I finally slept a bit. And then I'm like, excitement is just going to make you more awake. It's a nightmare again. I believe me, I don't know how to make it stop. My therapist doesn't know what to say about it, but he did tell me that I have a problem with hyperarousal, that I basically sleep with one eye open, the other one closed. Sometimes I really feel like I'm only able to sleep when I crash from exhaustion, like I need to sleep every other day so that when I get in bed, I'm really, really tired and my body shuts down. Do you have an experience with this? What about people in the comments? I'm always happy when someone can relate. Thanks for listening. Hope your family is doing great, that we're all doing well. And I can go first here, Michael, and say, so it's fresh in my mind here, a couple of things. Number one, Thea has a lot of insight, like, says herself that I'm trying to control my thoughts. And it's just like with sleep there, that the more you try to control it, the less control you get. Thoughts, we all have thoughts all the time, but when we're not trying to control them, or when we're engrossed in a movie or a book or something like that, we may not perceive that we have thoughts, but they're there all the time. And when you go to a place where like, I want to think this or I don't want to think that, then you're basically telling your brain that you don't want to listen. It's kind of like a good example, I think, is when you have a toddler or something and they like this happens to me quite a lot, like dad, and I'm like They're like dad, and I'm like dad. It's like, oh, fine, like yeah, what is it, right? It's like the more you try to not have a thought or control the thoughts, the stronger they become, the more persistent, the more nagging, So that's one thing about thoughts, that and you say it yourself, Thea, like judging the thoughts. Like one thing that you can do is just listen to your thoughts and try to not judge them. Like, now I'm thinking this, now I'm thinking that. That works really good. Trying to have no thoughts so that you can sleep better, or trying to have a particular thought so that you can sleep, that's an obvious sleep effort. And of course, that's going to make it harder for you to sleep. So I think, firstly, I want to say everything you say is super, super common, things that we hear about all the time, nothing unusual, strange about it. And secondly, what can you do more practically? I think the befriending wakefulness thing is the best. Like, just trying to go in direction of not, you can go into mindfulness, trying to kind of be in bed and like not judge your thought, listen to your thoughts, which I think is very doable, very, very, very helpful, but takes practice. I think what is easier and more practical is have a book prepared, have a podcast prepared, have something that you enjoy prepared for when you go to bed and when you're up at night. I think those are my big picture things there. What do you think, Mike?
Absolutely. There's two things that don't work when it comes to sleep. One is trying real hard. Well, actually, there's three things. Trying real hard, trying to think about nothing, and trying to bore yourself to sleep. Those three things, just they're all efforts in their own way. Even trying, just flat out trying to will yourself to sleep. You don't want to go down that road. So befriending wakefulness at night, accepting it, kind of that, mindfulness kind of idea where thoughts come in, you accept them. Maybe turn them into a visual thing or something, and then just let it be. Don't get judgmental with what you're thinking about. I do think the mind gets creative at night. History is replete with creative people, musicians, poets, all that, staying up late because the mind kind of gets a little creative, and that can be helpful in certain situations. So tap into that a little bit. I think that's natural. So what you don't ever want to do, of course, is to be in bed, lights out, you're laying there trying to get to sleep. You never want to get into that scenario because that can get into that conditioning thing, the associative kind of thing. So you want to try to not do that. That's first and foremost. But turn the tables, maybe sit up, maybe listen to something, read something, do some coloring, crossword, whatever you like to do. Something non-judgmental, kind of maybe a little on the creative side that you enjoy. and without knowledge of the time, of course. That's my big one. I'm the timeless night guy here. So you want, do something along a creative angle. I think it lends itself well to how the brain functions at night. That's what I would suggest.
100%. I think that made tons of sense. Thea, let us know if you have follow-up questions and how things go. Of course, Melina says that has happened to me often when I have a few hours to sleep. The pressure gets the best of me. What would you suggest? Should I know the time or not? No, don't know the time. And when the pressure gets the best of you, then I think it's always good to go towards acceptance. Like, if I'm not going to sleep tonight, that's okay. I'm going to use the time, the wakefulness, for something else. Hope that helped Melina, and Russ is super helpful. Yeah, I do think a lot of people have the question about all the questions we had, really, including the one about wakefulness. And Melina says the time, because I don't want to be afraid of it. Yeah, the time. I guess she knows the time because she don't want to be afraid of it, maybe. And I understand that, but again, it's always kind of like going towards giving your brain a lesson in fearlessness. And you feel if the mind often wants control, wants to know what time it is, then if you can go in the other direction, teach it that there's nothing to be afraid of. That really helps. Let's move on here with another question. Oh yeah, this one I really look forward to. This one I had a lot of good things in it. This is from PrismStars, a comment that goes like this: Hey Daniel, about before, I actually only watched some of your videos. After reading your reply, I bought your book, Set and Forget It. Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much. Don't forget to leave a review. Looks like I don't have to do anything. Besides having a fixed appropriate time spent in bed to get back on track. Okay. I often hear that CBTI is the only effective way to treat insomnia, and it makes me anxious. What if CBTI doesn't work? Is it over for me then? And I read the sleep book by Guy Meadows too. It was helpful, but the techniques in the book are very hard to master. In fact, those books made insomnia even scarier. Many people are kind of cure themselves by accepting their insomnia without even knowing anything about CBTI or ACT, right? Are there a lot of success stories like that? I will stop Googling insomnia now, ha ha ha, so I won't know myself. That's good. Daniel, one more question. Can I play video games on my TV or browse the phone whenever I can't sleep? The point is to enjoy nighttime instead of finding ways to get back to sleep, right? And also, can I take a power nap during the day if I feel really sleepy? I feel like I nap during the day to make me less anxious. Let's do this. Let's go over the last couple of questions kind of like one by one. But one of those interesting overarching questions here was that PrismStar says, I've heard like CBTI is like the best thing. So, and then it becomes like, so what if it doesn't work for me? What do you think when you hear that, Michael?
Well, CBTI has been studied quite a bit, in controlled studies, but the thing you learn about CBTI when you really start getting into it is everyone does it kind of differently. There's different angles, different emphases, different order of application of different things. So there's that, and there's sort of like the sleep drive side, and then there's the cognitive side. So the sleep drive side is usually what started first, usually when you do CBTI, because it's like harnessing your natural tendency to get sleepier over time. So that's kind of the first thing, where you reduce that sleep window. You're kind of restricting your sleep a little bit. You're restricting your time in bed, your opportunity. So that's kind of the easiest to understand, the easiest to implement. It's usually started, but people sometimes the cognitive side kind of kicks in early on. And as someone who uses CBTI, helps clients with CBTI, you have to watch for that. You have to be aware, are they kind of like they get the whole sleep window thing really quickly, but then you can tell there's deeper things going on there. And that's where you have to kind of shift your discussion with your client, like kind of just wrap it up quickly. Like, okay, 6 hour window, you good with that? You good getting up at 6? Okay, does that work for you? Yeah, okay, great. Then you go into the kind of like, well, what do how are you thinking about your sleep? Are you aware that, adults generally don't sleep 8 hours, they sleep less than that? Are you aware that people wake up at night multiple times and that's normal? Are you aware that there's no medication that causes you to fall asleep naturally? So, you kind of go into more of the cognitive side of things, and like, what are you thinking about? And at night, what are your thought patterns and that sort of thing? so I guess I think I answered the question of CBTI working or not working. CBTI is pretty straightforward in the beginning, but I think the people who do it well as coaches or counselors, they understand that the cognitive side of things has to be tapped into when the client is ready. If your client is just grasping with, having trouble getting that sleep window down, and they're really struggling with that, maybe for other things going on, you might have to spend a little more time on that. But if your client is ready, they understand that, and then maybe they've already been doing it or something like that, you got to go into some of the thought patterns and beliefs and expectations about sleep. They become really important.
100%. I think that the CBTI has, unfortunately, for many people, become almost synonymous with sleep restriction, which it really is much more than that. But I think to me, this becomes almost like this one, where if you say, will this work for me? And if you think of work for me as make me sleep, then it won't, right? Then nothing will work, because nothing can make you sleep. So if you approach CBTI and be like, this is going to make me sleep, what's going on? I've done this for 8 weeks and it's not working. Then it hasn't been, you haven't been educated well enough that it is not gonna, nothing can make you sleep, so nothing can work in that sense. And anything you try to make work for you like that will not work, right? And then to flip that on the other end, I'll say if somebody has completely understood, this is kind of where you were going, if somebody has completely understood sleep and understood sleep efforts and understood that the more I try, the less I get. And if somebody has gotten to a place where they understand that and they're not trying anymore, then that cannot not work. That's my kind of take on that. It cannot not work if you've fully understood it. That's my take on that one.
Yeah. The sleep restriction is kind of it's done initially to kind of set the stage for everything else. It kind of takes out of the equation, extended time in bed, and which just comes along with effort. If you're spending 10 hours of time in bed, you're trying to sleep because you're not naturally sleeping 10 hours. I mean, that's such an outlier. It's not even worth this talking about. So, clearly sleep restriction is meant to, harness the natural sleep drive and make sure you're not applying efforts, just pure and simple effort, just time in bed, you're reducing that. So that's the start of it. But then you get into kind of the, how you react to being awake at night and these kinds of things that become, really important and really determine whether it's
very
going
important.
to succeed or not.
I just have to sneak this one in that I personally started looking at the sleep window actually as a tool. Let's say 80-20. Let's say 80%. I think it is a tool for as a psychological step away from trying to sleep. I think of a sleep window actually as a more of almost paradoxical intention that you're spending less time in bed is a way for you to try less. And then I think of it as it has that added benefit of maybe increasing your sleep drive too. But I think of it not as the primary thing of it. Let's see. What's Melina said here? Should we not want to know the time forever though? We have to come to a point where time does not bother us, right? What do you think of that one?
Well, it's kind of up to you. I mean, I tell people, if you're indifferent when you look at the clock at night, you wake up, look at the clock. If you can confidently say you are indifferent, then you can stare at the clock every time you wake up. I don't care. It doesn't matter. If you, for that matter, anything, if you are kind of indifferent, it doesn't trigger some insomnia or some anxiety by doing something at night, it's fine to do it. That's kind of it. That's in some. So I'm pretty indifferent when I look at the clock, but I like to encourage my clients not to look at the clock, to at least try it out. Try it for a week. Even if you feel like you're pretty indifferent, just try it. Just humor yourself. It's free. It's logistically easy, right? Don't look at the clock, turn it around, whatever. But then you can do whatever you want. But if you feel like it, looking at the clock, you get into that habit, you're kind of glancing at it more and more, it's a good thing to rule out. I generally don't check the time. I haven't not every single night, but just most nights, probably 98% of my nights, I don't look at the clock because I just don't want to go there. And that's just me. Like I said, we're all kind of different.
Yeah, very good point actually there about how like if it doesn't bother you at all, then there's no problem. But for most people, it does. But I think I want to just go actually a little bit outside of this and say, when when I work with clients or patients in clinic or whatnot, you say, I think try to do this, try to do that, etc. But the goal is this: like you, Milena, or anybody that has trouble sleeping, you're not different. There's nothing different for you and some other human being that doesn't have trouble sleeping, right? So the goal is for you to do whatever you want, it's not like some people think, oh no, now I have to have the sleep window for the rest of my life. Not at all. It's just until you have learned enough, you have no worries about your sleep, then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Right? When I'm working with a client, I use that phrase a lot. I say, not for the rest of your life. Hey, let's try adjusting this. Not for the rest of your life, like a week or two.
Yeah.
A good sample. And these aren't just grasping at straws things. You could tell people, I tell my clients, these are science-based. They've been looked at, they've been studied. Like, this is a good thing to start off doing, like reduce your time in bed. Try it for a couple of weeks. Let's get a start. Let's get you experiencing some things that have been shown to be helpful, and they're very logical. They're easy to explain. So not checking the time is another one of those things. I encourage my clients, even the ones that say, oh yeah, well, I look at it, but it doesn't seem to be a big deal. I just say, well, just humor yourself. Just go 2 weeks without checking and just see. You might kind of start to enjoy it, and it might have had more of an impact than you thought it had. So it's worth finding that out.
Another good point. Very good one. Cool. Let's continue here with oh yeah. We had these kind of specific ones that I also thought were really important from PrismStars here, and we talked about the first one, and then I know we have a little bit maybe different opinions on this one, but I think we can totally agree on the second one here. So he says, can I play video games on my TV or browse the phone whenever I can't sleep? The point is to enjoy nighttime instead of finding ways to get back to sleep. And, as for the TV and the blue light and that stuff, I think me and Mike are totally on agreement that you have to enjoy time at night. That's the main thing. And I agree with, I think we are both on the same page that the only problem in my mind with like TV and phone really is that we talked about, like it can easily give you the time, and that can kind of be triggering. But yes, I think my take on this is, whatever you do at night that is enjoyable, relaxing, fun, purposeful is good. And the other one was like, can I take a power nap during the day if I feel really sleepy? I think we kind of already covered that, but my thinking of that is it's kind of intent is everything. That if you take a little power nap because you just want to feel refreshed, perfect. If you're like chasing sleep, I got to get the sleep, I got to sleep a little bit, not good, because then you're reinforcing that thing of like, I got to get sleep when I can. So my thoughts. What are your thoughts on these ones, Michael?
Totally. First, with the naps, a nap it's an opportunity. It's not a mandate. So it's just like, you maybe feel like you're struggling in the afternoon a little bit. Maybe, the night was a little short, whatever. And you just feel like, I think I might be a little more refreshed if I just lay down for a minute. Great. Just lay down for a few minutes. See what happens. Maybe you sleep, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even know. It doesn't matter. Just give yourself like 15 minutes, the power nap thing. I personally, I've experimented with naps a bit. And, I feel like I've, if I drift off for just a couple minutes, I notice it. I feel a little better. It's not like great, I'm ready to conquer the world feeling, but it's like I can get through the rest of my day. Like, my eyes don't feel as tired. I feel like just a little more there, a little more with it. And that's great. And that was the point of a nap for me. So it's not meant to replace night sleep. It's not a mandate in any way. The other side, the backlit screens at night, it's whatever you enjoy. Obviously, I'm kind of like the rule out the time thing. Yeah, your screens probably show the time, whatever. But when they've studied this stuff, it's like it takes like a lot of an intense amount of that higher frequency light band, like pretty directly, shine like on the side of your eye, kind of thing. Like, you look at these studies, and it's like, that's not really real life.
People do, right?
Yeah. You don't hold your phone like 3 inches from your eye and kind of like, turn the filter off and just like shine it right there. You don't do that. It's like a couple feet away from you, and maybe you probably have like a light filter on it, and great, that's fine. It just, in my mind, okay, so the thing with the screens is, it, to me, and maybe my eyes are kind of sensitive, that I'm just full disclosure there, I find it's kind of irritating to my eyes. I don't personally like it. So, but that's me. You might be younger, you may be more familiar with the phones and stuff. So great. If that makes you relaxed and you enjoy it, and it's not kind of a time drain, you're not just finding yourself depriving yourself of sleep. You're not allowing yourself to get sleepy. Like, kind of be honest with yourself. Are you pushing yourself to stay awake so late, knowing that you have a fixed morning time? You want to be careful about that. That can also be kind of a slippery slope. So, just be aware of the engagement potential with your phone. It's social media, it's your email, it's all this stuff, Facebook, all that. So you want to just be what's the word I'm looking for?
Mindful.
Yeah, be mindful. Just be aware that it's like drawing your natural brains, your natural tendency to absorb information. You want to be careful that it's not leading to sleep deprivation, which is not insomnia. That's a different thing. That's willful. Like, you're keeping yourself awake well into your sleep time that you probably would have gotten naturally sleepy had you not been so engaged mentally in something. So I'm kind of a proponent of like the analog night. I like incandescent light because it's a little softer. It feels better on my eyes. I like the idea of reading or listening to something like a paper source, or listening to like a podcast or something like that. That's just, a lot of that is me. So you have to find what works for you, but be aware of the sleep deprivation potential there.
Perfect. I think in summary for that one, we can say like, we, befriend wakefulness, always great. Also use common sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's go over here. This is from, I think this is the last one. Yeah, last question here from Vince. Hi, Daniel. And Vince, we may have had questions from Vince together, but Vince has been, sending questions for, I think, almost like a year back and forth. But let's read this. Hi, Daniel. Thanks so much for your advice. I believe it was a turning point in which I was able to sleep normally. The last time I emailed you, I've told you I was having trouble sleeping with my medication. You told me that if you just take the medication and forget it, there's no conflict. And again, I find myself chasing the rabbit hole. I've watched many of the videos that you've answered me in, but then I've stopped so that I won't focus myself on something. I already remember what advice you told me that worked. Shift your attention. Don't do the sleep efforts. Maybe spend less time in bed. Don't try to question and figure out what's happening. Just relax and enjoy your life. Yeah, sounds like things I would say. Could you please remind me again, what should I do to motivate me and ease my anxiety about sleep? Because I'm so sorry. I unsubscribed from your channel, just watch you from time to time to shift my attention, enjoying life instead of thinking about sleep. Well, I want to say that this may surprise you, but I'm super happy when somebody unsubscribes because they're sleeping good. That makes me really, really happy. And I think that's often a good idea. If you're like, I sleep well, I don't want to engage more with sleep stuff, I'm going to take my life in a different direction. Perfect. And I think you've already kind of answered your own question. I think all the stuff that you mentioned, I said before, I think all are great. I think the one thing I want to add, which is something I incorporate more and more in my teaching now, is this thing of when you're sleeping good and then you start having like a night where you don't sleep as well and your mind goes into, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Then you, instead of going like trying to prevent that, this is unacceptable, I can't have that happen to me. You go, well, if that happens, that's okay. I'm gonna be okay with having a setback. I'm gonna be okay with not sleeping for a while. I'm willing to have insomnia for a while. And then that really takes you back to sleeping well again. Weirdly, when you're willing to experience insomnia, you start sleeping really well. So my thoughts. Anything to add that one, Michael?
Yeah, it's great. It's like, we need a little bell, like Angel Got Their Wings kind of thing. What's that old Christmas movie, what it's called? So I digress, sorry. No, it sounds like he's doing great, and really a good place to get to is that not worried about a poor night. That's kind of the goal, right? It's like not to eliminate a poor night. It's to be okay with the occasional poor night, because it happens to all humans, and it's just part of life, So befriend it. Befriend the wakefulness at night, and enjoy it. Enjoy the time, and don't try to sleep.
Vince, I think you're going to do really well, and let us know if there's any follow-ups on that one. Oh, we have some more live questions here from Stacy. Oh yes, Stacy had a comment I remember from today, I think. I'm wondering about the sleep window with a 6-hour window. And I think Stacy has just started CBTI. Yeah, I remember her telling me that. Even if I sleep most of it some nights, I'm so wrecked the next day. It seems others cope on less sleep than me, but I feel so sick all day. It tends to keep my anxiety high. I'm wondering how people function. I have to breathe deep often in the day, have several cold swims that are keep going. So much effort. So I think the question here becomes someone, Stacy in this case, has started with a 6 hour sleep window, sometimes sleeping most of it, sometimes sleeping less, and it's just feeling so tired during the day. I have a couple of things that I'm thinking about there, but what are your immediate thoughts on that one, Michael?
Do we know how long Stacy's been?
I think just 1 week. It is like end of
just
week
1
one.
week. Okay. I would say, it's kind of early on for the, how long, like an average, quote unquote, average person doing CBTI. After 1 week, I'm always happy if I hear someone's doing better, but it's not usually expected to hear that. So a little hang in there, of course, would be, I think, appropriate here. But I think you have to kind of educate yourself on sleep and learn like why this is helpful in the long run, and try to not focus on sleep during the day. Focus on what you like to do during the day. I think that helps.
I think that I think it's I totally see Stacy, like she's so tired during the day and she's kind of wondering like how long is this going to be going on, like is this really going to help me? It's like our good friend Martin Reed often describes the first week as like the nosedive, almost like things get really, really tricky before like they get better again. But a couple of things that I'm thinking about is like coffee. A lot of people like don't drink coffee because they have been told not to drink that. I think coffee can often be your friend. Like, you have that nice coffee in the morning. It makes you feel refreshed. I personally don't drink coffee, but a lot of people do. So I think that one is one thing I think about. And then I think another one is that when you're in this first week, the reason it is so tough is because you have a combination of, okay, you've been hyper aroused, you've been worried about your sleep for some time, right? And then going back to that toddler who you're trying to, like, who's trying to get your attention all the time, or that kid, and you're starting to ignore the kid, it gets even more loud. It's like it wants your attention. So your insomnia kind of wants your attention now. You're spending less time, but it goes like you go into really hyper arousal overdrive. So you're both like sleep a little and you're really anxious, and that's why you feel so tired during the day. So I think just understanding that is really helpful. I think also that, talk to your therapist. Of course, it's good to have continuity. But what we talked about here, if somebody takes a power nap during the day, that can be so helpful. Get the pressure off. You feel a little bit more refreshed. I think that's super important. And then I agree with you also, Michael, that just knowing that the first week is really tough. And typically after week 2, that for most people is when it starts like turning the corner there.
Mm-hmm. I guess I would probably just throw in, make sure that sleep apnea has been ruled out. Doing CBTI and in a moderate degree of sleep, untreated sleep apnea at the same time is really challenging. It's really, really tough. So make sure maybe it's already been ruled out. Hopefully it has.
And then actually I want to add one more thing for Stacy here, which is, what I've started preaching about more and more is that if you think of the sleep window as a, like, you're kind of trying, let's say it's midnight to 6, let's say if you're really struggling to keep yourself up till midnight, then you can end up in this like so much pressure, and then at midnight it's like, oh no, I can't sleep, I was supposed to, like. But if you think of it as like, okay, the sleep window is there to make me actually take a step away from sleeping. It's like, I'm just going to enjoy myself until about midnight, and if I sleep then or not, that's either it's okay. Like trying to go towards enjoying the time up until your sleep window begins, like having that more relaxed approach overall, I think that can really help too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the funny one. Melina said, you remember Melina said, like, should we not know the time, etc.? And then she's like, and I think her sister told her the time. I told my sister, you screwed it up for me by telling me the time. Melina's sister is officially banned from the night.
What are sisters for, right?
Yeah, all her sisters. Very well. So I think that concludes it. I think Stacy, Milena, Isaiah, everybody who chimed in here live, and there were some questions. Big thanks. And we'll be back
Great questions.
next Friday.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.